with that being said, let's talk now to political analyst Lukhanyo Vangqa about the very latest developments. Lukhanyo, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us. I mean, any surprises there? Yesterday's announcement, Kgalema Motlanthe talking about, the candidates vouching for all these top 6 positions within the ANC. What stood out for you?
There were some surprises, and some of them were not surprises. For example, that President Ramaphosa emerged with the highest nominations for him to get a second term. That was all but expected from our side. And also Dr. Zweli Mkhize lagging behind in the way that he has, and also having his support, isolated to the KZN region, which shows you that he's only gotten support in that province, and it has not been able to translate to the rest of the country. But some of the surprises that we saw is the fact that the current deputy president of the country, Titi Mabuza, was unable to garner enough nominations to be able to contest for any position in December at Nasrec, and therefore his political fortune seems to have reached the end of the road unless something drastic happens and is nominated from the floor, which looks like it's highly unlikely that will happen. His support base has all but evaporated inside the ANC. Another interesting surprise as well is that the special advisor to the president is Pejani Chauke is currently leading nominations for the position of TG to get into the top 6 of the ANC, which is quite surprising and comes out of the blue. And one of the more depressing, if surprising at all, is the fact that women have been excluded largely from the nominations for the top 6 positions. No woman has been elected or nominated in 5 of the top 6 positions, and women have been left to sort of fight it out for the lowly position of Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, which is very lamentable in the ANC, and it must be condemned roundly by all members of society that the ANC continues to exclude its women from its top 6, from the ranks of its top 6.
Look, Anya, when I saw the announcement, I mean, it felt like deja vu once again. That position previously occupied by the late Jesse Duarte, now seeing 2. This is the Deputy Secretary General position here. Nomvula Mkonyane and Phoebe Potgieter vowing for this position. Where is the ANC Women's League in this regard to make sure that their voices are heard? Where are different structures to ensure that, each time they say that they do want to include women, that there will come a time where there will be a 50-50 chance of women occupying, the top 6 position. When will that ever be? But I suppose, where's the ANC Women's League?
Yes, the ANC Women's League seems to be missing in action. It's been a couple of hours since that diabolical list that excludes women in such a manner that it has. I don't think women have been excluded this much in the ANC before. They spoke about their 50-50 gender parity and even the 30-70 back in 1990 and 1991. I don't think it has reached these levels where women are not even nominated and therefore cannot possibly become more than one in that top 6. It was something that was lamented when it happened in Nasrec. Only one woman was elected into the top 6, and now it seems to be getting cemented into the cultures and traditions of the ANC. And you can see that ugly scar of patriarchy continues to mar the face and the brand of the ANC, and something drastic needs to happen from within the structures of the ANC. And one of those things were actually put out, Tumelo, in the electoral committee rules, where they say they're going to elect the top 3 separately, so that once those are elected, and if it's only men, then they can be able to sort of remedy that situation with the remaining top 3 positions. You can see that there's a huge pushback within the ANC with regards to that, with more men wanting to have all of those positions elected or nominated, voted on at the same time, which gives you the impression that they actually want to have more of those positions in the top 5. And if a democratic process is going to be patriarchal and is going to have patriarchal results, then a serious intervention is needed to ensure that the results of that democratic process are progressive and they include women. You cannot continue to have an ANC that excludes a majority of our population from its top 6. It is wrong, it is discriminatory, it is sexist, and cannot have a place in a South Africa that is democratic, that is non-racist, that is non-sexist.
No, and we definitely saw that the exclusion of, Mamoloko Kubai vowing for deputy presidency position, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and Lindiwe Sisulu vowing for that top job of ANC president. They're out. In though, President Cyril Ramaphosa, Zweli Mkhize, I mean, clearly it shows that none of, the dark clouds looming over their heads have impacted the branch's support. On one hand, we have Cyril Ramaphosa with the Phala Phala farm gate, which still hasn't ended much. People still haven't forgotten about Phala Phala. So many answers still needed from Cyril Ramaphosa, but also Zweli Mkhize being implicated in the PPE scandal that, of course, ruptured much of the looting in the health department. So it's a clear indication here, Lukhanyo, for me at least, that even with those dark clouds, that didn't face the branches.
No, it didn't, Tumelo. It seems, and it's always seemed like that to me, that the ANC is a factional organization, that for you to rise within the ANC, you must belong to a faction, and you must depend on its infrastructure, the factional infrastructure and networks of that faction. Issues like integrity, issues like the credibility or probity of a candidate become secondary considerations if they are considered at all. And you can say that they are not even considered at all by the branches, owing to quite the slate that they've brought us. You look at the two candidates that you've mentioned. But further than that, you go to Nomvula Mokonyane and the scandals and the dark clouds under which she left Parliament. When you had those very startling revelations of gross corruption and bribery scandals with chicken pieces and whiskey from Bosasa, and now a mere 3 years later, she's topping the list of nominations together with this other, candidates of the calibers of Cyril Ramaphosa and Zweli Mkhize. It shows you that an ANC that speaks about renewal doesn't practice renewal within the organization. If it did, none of these candidates would have made it onto the ballot. And also, if it did have a functioning integrity committee that fulfills its constitutional mandate to protect the integrity of the ANC, none of these candidates would have made it onto the ballot, because there's no way that a president accused of kidnapping and torture can be allowed to pass through the eye of the needle by the integrity committee to be seen to be fit to run for a second term. It's unconscionable.
Right. Also, I mean, for Treasury General there, Bajani Chauke coming out, leading between himself, Bulemabe, Mzwandile Masina, Bajani actually receiving 552 of that support, Bulemabe getting 428, Mzwandile Masina sitting at 348. Bajani as well recently being implicated, being his alleged involvement in Phala Phala. He came out tops with the Treasurer General, nominations list. Amongst the three, I mean, any surprises there? But also, who do you think is more likely to take this post?
Bajani Chauke was quite a surprise, I must say. I thought his sort of nomination was limited to Limpopo. It was only those branches that seemed to be coming. Also, the fact that it really does come out of nowhere. I'm not even certain. I could be corrected that he's in the NEC currently, he serves in the NEC. The allegations against him, that is the bagman of the president that travels, crisscrosses the world to bring in all of these illicit contraband notes for the president, is a serious allegation that still hangs over his head. And I don't know what the Integrity Committee's finding was in terms of clearing him to contest. So that was a surprise. Mzwandile Masina is also a surprise because it doesn't seem to enjoy support, or it falls under the category of candidates who don't seem to enjoy support from their own provinces, but have made it onto the ballot because of support that they've received from other provinces. So that is also surprising. Whether or not he will continue to go ahead and contest, we know how stubborn Mzwandile Masina can be. I think he will. And also he will might contest under the banner of RET, and we can see that RET is on the back foot here, so it's most unlikely to make it. And I think the same thing can be said for Bulemabe. And that leaves Pejani Chauke as sort of the candidate and also belonging to the right faction. And therefore, with those numbers or that factional infrastructure will be enough to carry him to the position of TG and take him to Luthuli House.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting race. It'll be interesting race, Lukhanyo. I want to talk about the national chairmanship nominations now. It seems Gwede Mantashe still wants to retain that position. He came in second with 979 in terms of support there. That's the total number. But Stanley Matavata emerging there ahead of the incumbent, 1,492. This compared to also David Masondo sitting at 501. For the national chairmanship, quite a significant position there as well. Stanley, likely to take it?
Stanley, very much likely to take it, considering the fact that he seems to enjoy support from both factions of the ANC, from both the CR22 as well as the RET factions of the ANC, so he's most likely to take it. He's one of a few candidates, I think it's him and Paul Mashatile, that seem to enjoy the support from across the factional lines or factional divides in the ANC, so that's also quite interesting, and that really improves his chances of making it. Gwede Mantashe, who is the incumbent, is on the back foot. It's quite strange for Gwede Mantashe because he usually goes to these conferences in quite a strong position. I think he got either the second highest number of votes in Nasrec. So that shows you his popularity in the ANC and the way that he's always been able to work the machinery of the ANC and understands the machinery of the ANC to such an extent that he always puts himself in a positive place or footing going to a national conference. David Masondo, there's a surprise in the fact that he also has a negative finding against him from the Integrity Committee that would have ordinarily disqualified him to make it onto the ballots, because the rules of the Electoral Committee are that if you have a negative finding from an Integrity Committee or Disciplinary Committee, or you've been charged, then you don't make it onto the ballot. So that's surprising that David Masondo has been able to make it there. I don't know how he's able to do that. Also, he's garnered the least number of votes, and I don't think he's a serious contender for that position of chairperson.
I think before I let you go, Lukhanyo, just my last question to you. Of all the candidates announced just yesterday by the ANC vouching for the top 6 position, in your opinion, is this the top 6 list that the ANC needs for their continuous rhetoric around renewal, around unity, around significant changes that need to be made in the ANC for them to sort of inspire confidence back into the organization, the ANC that once was? I mean, we saw how much they lost in the previous local government elections in terms of support. Do these individuals reflect that particular renewal they speak of?
I don't think they reflect the best that the ANC has to offer, and I don't think they are the most the candidates with the most integrity. It would be difficult to go and sell a message of renewal and corruption busting with the likes of Zweli Mkhize or Cyril Ramaphosa that has this huge pala cloud hanging over his head, or even Nomvula Mokonyane, who has, findings against her from the Zondo Commission, and she still hasn't taken that report on review. So it's not the cream de la cream or the cream of the crop. I don't think it is. And also the message of renewal would not be able to take a root or to take off with this caliber of candidates still there leading the ANC. I think the ANC still needs to do more to work out what it is about its democratic processes that keeps bringing to the top these compromised candidates or candidates with huge question marks on their integrity. And then they need to put in serious interventions. And I think that's where the Integrity Committee needs to be strengthened, to have people that can be able to put their foot down and say, no, this candidate will compromise the integrity of the ANC and therefore cannot be allowed to make it onto the ballot, because the democratic processes of the ANC seem to be patriarchal, they seem to be factional, and they seem to lack integrity.
We'll leave it there, and I appreciate you speaking to me. Lukhanyo Vangqa, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time this morning.